2020 was the year of the digital assets, and in 2020, XRP pumped 525%. Now, what about 2021? We'll have to evaluate XRP price based on the reality. We need to see how things are progressing. This clearly shows you that the interest is increasing. Even after the SEC lawsuit, the company is still progressing. Even after the carnage in the XRP markets, institutions want to partner with this technology. They want to get on this infrastructure because the entire financial system is moving into it. Brad also mentions here that the company is still expanding, and the success of Ripple, the company, while the world is in chaos with the health crisis and the economic crisis, that shows the future of this technology as the financial infrastructure is moving into the interoperable state. But in short term, we are still looking at a bearish pattern, and there is a possibility that a buy the dip moment may arise in XRP markets. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Now, if you actually look at this one, what do you see personally? For me, it's a head and shoulder pattern which broke to the downside, and usually once it breaks to the downside, it slowly goes to the upside, retest the broken support or turned into resistance, and then move to the downside. Now, different coins will show you different progress as the market is fluctuating variously. One is volatile going to the upside, another one is going to the downside. So this is an opportunity which you can see. Say this is an icon, and while we were moving inside that channel, rising channel, I highlighted the range is to the upside and we are going to move to the upside, and eventually we actually reached 80% of our target. Then this one for Elrond, I highlighted there is a bullish target upside, and as we break to the upside, we are going to move like this, and that actually happened. So these are something which you have to understand while you look at the market. As a trader, at least short to medium term, medium to long term, that depends upon your risk tolerance. However, if you understand these patterns, you are able to take profits. You see, are we at the bottom here? Yesterday, when we reached that top, I highlighted take your profits. Now, it's negative 13%. So it always has to be executed in a disciplined manner. Never FOMO in because the price just went 30-50% yesterday. Because yesterday's winners may not be the guys who stand on top today. You have to understand, once something pumps, it will eventually come down, correct. Stay disciplined and you will make profit. When the market is actually showing you this kind of pattern, I would personally look at it as a huge opportunity. Why? I would actually place a couple of orders, say at the bottom, which is 0.2, and then 0.21, 0.22, like that. But if you still keep dry powder aside, you would be happy if it drops and you are able to buy and the price wicks back, go all the way up. Now this is on a 12-hour time frame. Now the same if you are looking at on a longer time frame, this is what you actually see. So even if you drop below that, you still have support. That means, like last time, you may wick to the downside, but eventually you may come to the upside and close here. Why? If you look here, you can actually clearly see that the MACD is slowly rounding. But remember, usually MACD bounces. So that kind of a bounce in MACD would signal a little bit more downside, which kind of coincides with what we discussed here. Then if that movement on a 3-day is valid, then look at the RSI, it's also showing a little bit of downside. Now when the indicators are showing you the downside, and the pattern is suggesting you to the upside, yes, I agree, you get a mixed idea from technical analysis. But On a shorter time frame, this is what you see, and on the macro time frame, this is what your direction is, right? You are looking at a huge rounding pattern which is showing you that direction. Now, as of now, if you anticipate the movement in the market, you can try to at least connect all of these bottoms, which is like low, lower low, again a lower low. So you continue to follow these, and you kind of end up something like this. Here it's low, but next one is high, and next one is again a high. So you kind of get something like this, which if you want to accurately connect, you kind of get something like this, right, at the bottoms. Now, to be precise, you can actually move this around and check where the candles close and how it is being aligned. This candle close, this is another candle close, just say a little bit give or take. Now you can actually move around and play with these trend lines and understand how the pattern is evolving. So one thing you understand is that the sellers were having higher magnitude here, but by this point, buyers are taking back the control, and we pumped 500% in a year. For those who guys say XRP is not moving anyway, I don't personally think so. Yes, before SEC came, this did happen. So if SEC was not there, I would argue that this support and this resistance lines would have stayed and the price would have bounced from there. Now, why do I personally think so? Because when I go into another asset, which is, targeting the same target market, say the payments market, it's still kind of in that trend line, right? We are still looking at that trend line where the price was moving. It broke above and it is still holding that support. So as we saw last time, it pumped, it corrected, bounced. So it bounced, it will correct and then go to the upside, because eventually this is the target. Now, if you look at that, yes, we maintained about 70 to 75% of our target and then corrected. So those who are walking with the SI in the Patreon channel understood where to take profit, where to buy back, and how to increase your portfolio. Now, looking at this, it's clearly understandable that XRP and XLM is showing a similar pattern, but you do have to understand the general market will always behave as BTC moves. These will show different symbols. Say on a 12-hour, if you look closely for BTC, we broke below. Now, yes, our negative target is 25%. That would extend towards 26 or just below that. And then we eventually came back to the upside, retested this broken moving average, which is 50-day moving average on a 12-hour chart. Now we are slowly moving to the downside. So if we close below the recent bottom, that's going to signal another downside towards 29. And then the next support should be around 26. So when I say this, what does it actually mean for you and your crypto portfolio? You should be looking for opportunities, as you can generally see, say for example, when the altcoin market is consolidating inside a bullish pattern, that too after having a long-term trend change to the upside, you would be personally looking at a move to the upside, right? And if, now this is on a 3-day chart, if you go into a 12-hour daily chart, it depends upon how you trade it, you may actually get an opportunity to buy back at this bottom, which is the support line of this pattern, trend line support, or the support with 50-day moving average. So that is going to give you a buy the dip moment there. But keep this in mind. Some may say this is a triple top, but not always triple top end up like this. A close here and then a close higher that. So if you continue this trend, you can see that it's not a triple top as of now. You have to take that clearly in your mind, because the MACD on a 12-hour is crossing to the upside after a bounce, as I told previously. Just the RSI has to correct to the upside. So that will give you that initial indication that we are moving to the upside in the altcoin market. Because when BTC is also having different trends, patterns, BTC dominance is something which you have to combine with your altcoin market. So in BTC dominance, this is what you actually see. Now, remember, when you go down really hard, say here, BTC price is big, right? 30,000, 35,000. So when you compare it with altcoins like $10, $100, $1,000, the value is big. So 10% or 12% fluctuation in BTC itself is a huge fluctuation. Now, when you look at that market on that time frame, you can understand it may reverse, go back, retest this moving average, which would be the 200-day moving average on a 12-hour, and then return all the way back, right? So your target is around 58-59% in BTC dominance, and if that happens, yes, altcoin has a lot of room. Now, looking at this pattern zoomed out, you can also argue that we actually went to the top, we tested there, but we failed, or we were rejected. Now, as we are rejected from there, you can also see the current trend line like this. We broke below that. So this was our trending line, which was supporting the price to the upside. Each time when it came back, it bounced from there, came back, bounced from there, came back, broke that. So that means now you're actually going to the downside. So for that, if you want to measure the move, you can actually put your direction like this, and you can actually measure this move and plot it down. You will reach something similar. So that is how you actually measure these moves. And when the market shows you this on a 12-hour, what you can do is, to understand the macro perspective, you can go into a 3-day, weekly chart and look how things are actually evolving. Because if things are moving as anticipated, you should do things as anticipated or expected. Don't play with your emotions, because this is a pattern which majority, are not concentrating further. When you see these patterns, say this is a head and shoulder in a rising trend line, you do have to understand we have a significant downside there. Now, the issue with the majority here would be, it can either go like a rising head and shoulder or a falling head and shoulder like this. But whenever you break to the downside, you usually go back upside, retest that, and then go to the downside. This aspect has to be understood. You look at here, we broke downside, we came back up, we retested that, and then we went to the downside, right? So these has to be understood, because in the opposite side, say when we are going to the upside, not all the time we retest this close. Say here, as it's shown here, you can see we broke this one, we went above, but the retest was not that close. It didn't actually came back towards that side. Now, this is what we are actually looking at, right? We broke below that, we would come back, retest, and go back. So when we look at that on a BTC chart, now you're getting something similar. If you ignore that, it's completely up to you, but at least you can wait until the pattern is invalidated if it's reversing actually, right? You can use different type of charts depending upon which chart you use. You can either go to a candlestick chart, see, using candles, or you can directly go into area chart and then go into a 12-hour, 4-hour, whichever chart you want to actually look at. Remove the indicators, which would give you that idea whether we are moving in that pattern. Now, instead of area, line chart would be better to compare it with that scenario there. Now, why am I highlighting BTC here? We broke below, we retested, we came back. Now, when we go to the upside, usually what we used to say, we get kind of patterns. Say you go to the upside, you consolidate like this, and then move to the upside. So that is a bearish flag. So similarly, you broke to the downside, you are consolidating here. Now, if this bear is to break to the downside, we would go down. Always try to look at the patterns and understand it in a way that it reflects with your portfolio, because in your portfolio, if you are having different assets which you can rebalance, it would be better. When price of an asset is near its all-time high or above that, do look for another asset which has a huge upside. Now, if you're a XRP holder, there is nothing for you to rebalance if you are confident with your position. Only if you have doubts with your position in XRP, you can rebalance, look for different assets, and then enter into them, because the market is volatile for different assets at different time. Not everything pumps together. Some does, not everything together. And when these opportunities arises, you can see 30% pump here in Elrond, and as I showed, we were on that. We highlighted that this is going to happen. The chances are high, and I think 20% of guys entered into that and they are making profits. As I highlighted to take profits there, they understood this is really happening. Now, as you go through this market, you see different protocols. Say even Ocean, I showed you. This was the pattern we highlighted. Now, those who entered are making profit. So it's up to you whether you have to move into a pattern-based analysis or a trend-based analysis, or combine them and understand what you should do. Because the overall market will always show you some opportunity. And especially for XRP, these kind of news shows you huge opportunity. So Brad Garlinghouse highlights here that they signed 15 new customers after the SEC complaint. So SEC complaint is not about whether they are dealing with a security or not, it's about how they operated their business. So that kind of issue would be there with any big companies. Say Google is a leader of the industry. They also faced these kind of issues in the beginning, different lawsuits. If you go look at Amazon, if you go look at Microsoft, any kind of leaders in one particular industry, they came through this. They had to overcome all these hurdles to stand as that leader, that giant hegemonic force in that industry. Now we are seeing the same with Ripple, and I personally believe so much in this asset and the vision of Ripple, the company, and what I see across the globe. Because when I move, I'm seeing this from Bank of International Settlements. I'm seeing this similar vision from IMF. So if IMF is seeing a similar vision, and BIS, World Bank, United Nations and different central banks are gathering together to make that vision a success, I don't have any doubt whether this is going to be executed or not. If you are strong with your idea, you don't have to worry about stuff like this. There would be stuff like this in the mass media so that you guys are threatened and moved into different assets. So once it actually pumps, you are not there to take that benefit. Even if it goes parabolic, touches the sky, what would you actually anticipate, right? So now when you actually see 2020 came up with 550%, what are you clearly looking at for this asset? Here from Uphold, they actually states, for them, XRP is not a security. So as I told you, it's not being a security what SEC is running behind. So this will end up whether giving them a fine or not. But in the overall perspective, this year, you should also understand this. Harvard economics professor, governments will not allow Bitcoin on a big scale and they will win. Do keep this in mind. Now, yes, the libertarian perspectives, everything, I agree. But as long as you have banks, as long as you have central banks and governments, it would really be hard to go beneath the table. And that's why I say, look at assets which have that regulatory clarity. For investments, yes, BTC and Ether is regulatory. Regulators actually accept that as cool assets to move in as an investment. But as soon as you get the regulatory clarity, as we discussed in the last video from BIS itself, it's going to give you that enormous return on your investment. Now, if you look at this pattern and try to plot this one, you'll kind of end up with understanding, basic understanding that this asset is about to pump. And when we talk about this, we clearly understand that there is a pattern forming. Yes, we agree that we are moving like this. We are having a rounded bottom there. But when you zoom out and look at this asset on a weekly or 3-day or a monthly, you would also able to be watching this asset moving to the upside direction. It was coming to the downside. It slowed down there. Then it starts moving upside, gathers momentum. So the directional change there is kind of clear. So even if you plot it till this top here, which you kind of have another top here, another support, this is a support here, this is a resistance here, you extend that line, you get another resistance here. So from the bottom, if you are actually measuring that till here, you kind of get 500%. Now if you plot that 500%, say 468 to be precise, you kind of end up somewhere near the all-time highs, right? Somewhere near the all-time highs. Now, what does that mean for you from this point? If you take this and plot this, it's like 1,000% rise. Now, yes, 1,000% is not that big deal, but 10 times your money in an asset which you are saying is going to zero is going to be huge. Now this is on a medium time frame, say next 5 to 8 months, you may end up with this. Chances are really high that we would go even higher than that. Looking at the volume and the change in the market, yes, we need to get more confidence, and once we get that confidence in, we are going to burst through the upside. The only question would be, will you be still here when the prices are sky high? Because I see people moving into assets which has already pumped like 5 to 7x, 10x, 15x in this market cycle, and then jumping into assets like, they are moving sky high. It went 50 to 70x, it went 10 to 20x, I'm moving there. It's completely fine. That's how you lose profit. You'll get from there in that asset, the upside would be limited. When you are in an asset which still has that potential in the fundamental terms and technical availability in the return on your investment, that's where you make profits. If you do want to make it that way, understand the market, try to rebalance your portfolio. Now, if you would like to get a help, you can look at the Patreon, link is given in the description, and I will say you can jump on it after February 1st. So you won't be paying extra. Now, if you want more charts, more assets to position yourselves in the meantime, you can jump onto the basic tier, say $5 or $10, depends upon what you want. And then on the first, you can upgrade, right? If you saw this video fully and you received value, please do support the channel, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Now, if you would like to support anyway, you can use PayPal or the XRP wallet address given in the description, or use Patreon so that you get 10 times more value. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.